The fine showed up in my mailbox like a slap in the face. Bright red envelope, bold letters screaming, HOA, violation, $10,000, fine. $10,000. I stood on my porch, holding that letter, flipping it over like maybe the punchline was on the back. There wasn't. Just the smug HOA logo and the signature that made my blood boil. All because of my pool, the pool I'd built legally with permit surveys every damn box checked. And now they were telling me it was illegal and encroaching on HOA land. That's how it started. But what it uncovered was so much bigger than just a pool. My name's Weston Nichols. I'm 42, a contractor who's lived in Maplewood Ridge Estates for 7 years. I work with my hands long days on dusty job sites, so that pool in my backyard, that was my sanity. I'd landscaped it myself, made it perfect. And now they wanted to fine me into the ground. When I saw the accusation unauthorized structure extending into HOA green zone, I actually laughed. But it wasn't funny. $10,000 isn't a typo. I marched to the HOA meeting that night, letter in hand. The clubhouse smelled like stale coffee and false authority. Everyone was chatting like it was bingo night, but Marlene Lancaster sat at the head of the table, HOA chair, platinum blonde bob, frozen stiff with hairspray, tapping her pen like she owned the place. Without even looking at me, she said, "Mr. Nichols, your pool extends past the property line. We confirmed it with our inspector." I raised an eyebrow. "Your inspector? Who exactly is that?" She didn't answer. Instead, she slid grainy photos across the table shots taken from behind my fence. "You've built into the HOA green zone. That's a violation. The fine is final." I held up my certified land survey, the same one the county had on file. "My pool is 3 feet inside my boundary. Here's the stamp. Here's the signature from the county surveyor. Your so-called inspector isn't even licensed." The room got quiet. A couple of board members shifted, one coughed, but Marlene's jaw tightened. "You're out of line," she snapped. "No, Marlene," I said, stepping closer. "You are. And I'm not paying a cent." I noticed her hand twitch toward a folder by her side, something she didn't want anyone to see. That's when I knew this wasn't about a mistake. It was a setup. Instead of going home, I drove straight to the county records office. An hour later, I walked out with a stack of maps and documents. And that's where everything turned upside down. The so-called green zone. Marlene claimed my pool violated. It didn't exist. It had been a proposed expansion plan years ago, one the county flat-out denied. But somehow, it got drawn into the HOA's maps, which meant their fine wasn't just wrong, it was built on fabricated boundaries. The next morning, I called my sister-in-law Dana, a real estate lawyer who spent a decade dismantling shady zoning scams. She flipped through the documents and her face went hard. "Weston, this isn't just a bad fine. If they used falsified maps to issue penalties, that's fraud. Wire fraud, bank fraud. Even embezzlement, if the money went somewhere it shouldn't." I muttered I just wanted to swim in peace. She smirked. "Well, now we drown them in paperwork." But before the paperwork landed, the HOA retaliated. 3 days later, I came home to find a bright orange notice zip-tied to my gate, cease and desist unapproved structure, and a threat to shut off my water. I laughed out loud. They don't even control utilities. Still, the intimidation worked its way under my skin. That night, I sat by the pool, staring at the water. My chest was tight. 10 grand. Legal threats. What if they actually forced me to tear it out? What if the neighbors believed them? For a moment, I wanted to give in. Just write the check, make it stop. I hated myself for even considering it. Then I remembered Marlene's smug face, the way she leaned back as if I was just another check to cash. That's when I decided, no, I wasn't quitting. If they wanted a fight, I was going to give them one. I dug deeper. Quietly knocked on doors, asked questions. Turned out I wasn't the only one. 8 other families had been fined for boundary violations. Most had just paid out of fear. One elderly couple, Bryn and Marcus, showed me their $12,000 fine for a patio they'd had since the day they moved in. Marcus had Parkinson's. They couldn't handle the stress, so they paid. But the receipt didn't match HOA accounts it was deposited into something called the Maplewood Beautification Initiative, a fund that doesn't exist in official records. Piece by piece, the scam unraveled. A retired fire marshal named Hector showed me an old emergency access map proving the green zone wasn't even HOA land to begin with. I collected copies, photos, affidavits. When I had enough, I drafted a letter and hand-delivered it to every house in the neighborhood. I invited them to a meeting at the library, not under the HOA's thumb, but under a new banner, Homeowners for Legal Transparency. 32 people showed up. Dana joined on Zoom. Greg, her partner who worked municipal fraud cases, sent a statement from the DA's office confirming an investigation. You could feel the shift in the air. 2 board members, Tom and Evelyn, were in the back, silent at first. But when I revealed the private account, Evelyn stood up pale. I didn't know the money went there. Marlene said it was temporary until the renovation budget passed. "Did you authorize it in the board minutes?" I asked. She shook her head. Tom just stared at the floor. The cracks were showing. 3 days later, the showdown came. The HOA scheduled a special executive session, closed to the public. I showed up anyway. Letter from the DA designating me as a cooperating witness. The clubhouse door was unlocked and I walked in mid-sentence. Marlene was saying, "We'll transfer the funds out of the initiative account before." She froze when she saw me. "You have no right to be here," she hissed. "Actually, I do," I said, holding up the DA's letter. And then the detective from Financial Crimes walked in behind me, badge flashing. The room went dead silent. "We have a warrant for all HOA financial records," he said. "Step away from the files." Victor, the treasurer's smug guy with loafers and no socks, jumped up. "Those are private documents." The detective didn't flinch. "They're evidence." That's when Evelyn cracked. She stood up, voice shaking. "I want on record that I never had access to that account, and I want immunity." Tom followed. "Same here. Marlene handled all the transfers. We just signed what she gave us." Marlene's face went red. She tried to bolt for the door, but 2 uniformed officers blocked her path. She snapped, "You can't arrest me for running a neighborhood." The detective's voice was cold. "No, but we can arrest you for wire fraud, forgery, and obstruction of a financial investigation." They cuffed her right there in front of everyone. Victor, too. The sight of her being led out the self-styled Queen of Maplewood Ridge had neighbors outside, clapping, some crying. And just like that, the empire of fear crumbled. The rest of the board resigned within a week. A temporary oversight committee took over. They asked me to run, but I declined. I'd had enough of HOA politics. What I did agree to was helping draft new bylaws, real oversight, mandatory audits, protections, so no one could ever pull this stunt again. I went home, walked into my garage, and hung the county survey on the wall. The same document I'd held up that first night, the one that proved my pool was never in violation. After everything, the pool never moved an inch. This whole nightmare had started with a red envelope and a $10,000 fine. But it ended with handcuffs, warrants, and a corrupt board torn down. And the lesson was simple: when you stand your ground with proof, persistence, and a refusal to back down, the truth will outlast the lies.